Who does she end up with? Who does she end up happily ever after with? Who's her boyfriend? Oh, you ship them? Hey geeks, welcome to my channel. I'm Trey Guillotine, and you're watching Daily Marvels, where I give a few thoughts on some of the Marvel news that have gone on in the past week. We get our first look at Captain Marvel's costume. Some interesting details have been revealed about the official language of Wakanda, and people are apparently more concerned with shipping Agent Carter than anything else. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it around so others can join in the conversation. So it was a surprise that we finally got our first look at Brie Larson in the Captain America costume, but it wasn't exactly what people were expecting. The suit utility-wise and how it looks and how how the parts look, it looks the same. It has like the different color shoulders and then the chest with the star in the middle. But the color scheme is very different than what we were expecting. Obviously, Captain Marvel has the very red and blue look, whereas this is more blue and lighter blue look. I didn't like how it looks. It was a really ugly color blue. But it's such a departure from what we were expecting her to look like, I don't know. Maybe my thought is that maybe this kind of blue on blue look is her origin story, her origin story costume, and then the red's going to come later, because pretty much we're going to see Captain Marvel in Infinity War before we actually see her origin story, which takes place in the 90s. It is actually going to have Nick Fury and Maria Hill involved, so obviously SHIELD's going to be involved. So maybe this is just her origin story look, and that the red comes later, but the color scheme is just not what we were expecting. Overall, aside from the color scheme, it looks really cool. It's not just tights and just a superhero costume. It looks like it has utility, she has a utility belt, and it looks like there's armor. It looks like it's more like a leather armor-plated suit than just some superhero spandex. So utility-wise, it does look cool, and I'm excited to see how it is. The other theory that I might have is that because of the green parts, because of the it's like a light blue or weird green looking color, maybe that's for CGI purposes, which hopefully they're not going to make any of the suit animated. We've seen how bad that is in Green Lantern, so hopefully that's not going to be the case. But that was just a thought I had, just based on the color that they're choosing for the shoulders and the chest and the boots. Hopefully that's not something that's going to stick around. I don't like how it looks. I don't like the color scheme. It's a very ugly color scheme. But then again, I'm guessing that it's going to be Kree armor is what she's wearing, because from what I understand is that the Kree are going to be involved, and I think she gets her powers from the Kree. I'm not 100% sure on that, so I'm very excited to see the movie and see how that's going to play out. But right now, as far as we've seen, aside from the cool utility look of the costume, I'm not that in love with the color scheme and how it looks. So hopefully that'll change. Hopefully that's just her origin story costume, and that she's going to get the red and blue later, because I think that looks a lot more cooler. So Black Panther is actually releasing next week, so we're kind of getting more and more information about the movie, and something that came out is the details on how they chose the official language of Wakanda. John Candy, who played T'Chaka in Civil War, who was T'Challa's father and the king of Wakanda, actually helped the director of Black Panther choose what the language was going to be for Wakanda, and they chose a language called, and I'm probably not saying this right because the details of this language says that it has a lot of click consonants. Which I have an idea of what that could actually mean, but I'm not 100% sure that I'm accurate in what I'm imagining as that language to sound like. But chances are we're going to hear it in Black Panther. So the official language is called isiXhosa, which is one of the official languages of South Africa. It's one of the official languages, but not, from what I read, it's not one of the most widely spoken languages. I think that is really awesome that they're choosing like an actual African language to portray this African country. You know, Wakanda is in Africa. It's an African country. It's an African culture. So I think it's really cool that we're going to be hearing a language we probably wouldn't normally hear. And I'm just from reading about it and how they describe how the language sounds, that like with like click consonants. I'm curious of what that language is going to sound like, and how much of the movie will be in that language. Obviously, not the whole movie. Because we've seen the trailers. There's plenty of English. So it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be a foreign subtitled film, but there will be instances of this African language, Isizosa, in the movie. So I'm very intrigued on how that's going to sound. There's actually some other controversy going around the details of Africa with Black Panther, in that this Black Panther wasn't actually filmed in Africa. Sorry to burst your bubble, but you know, sometimes you can't film in the actual locations that they're supposed to. You know, luckily they did film it in other areas of the world that could, you know, resemble Africa, just not in Africa itself. But, you know, that happens. Like, spoiler alert, they didn't film certain scenes of Justice League in the city of Atlantis. So I don't think that's such a big deal, but I do think that it's cool that they are working in little details of actual real African culture into this movie. I think that's just a really cool thing, and I'm very intrigued to see how that language sounds. So for whatever reason, Agent Carter has been more in the news, and a lot of people seem to be more concerned with her shipping than anything else. The executive, and it's pretty much based on what the executive producer says in this interview. So he says, "We're certainly not saying this is definitely who Peggy Carter ends up marrying," speaking of Agent Sousa. "I would be interested to see Peggy Carter in a relationship. She doesn't seem like a woman who would just kiss a guy and things wouldn't change. She's committed to trying to actually be in a relationship with Sousa." So it's definitely been a question of who Peggy Carter's husband is, because we see in Winter Soldier not only did she marry, but she married someone who was part of the Howling, who was a member of the Howling Commandos. A big theory is that she married Dum Dum Dugan, which their chemistry on screen, especially in Agent Carter, was very playful, was very, you know, kind of old married couple. They got along really well, so I wouldn't be surprised to see her and Dum Dum Dugan ending up together, that ends up being her husband. But my issue with this is that Agent Carter was the first, at least for Marvel, the first strong female-led title that Marvel had put out. This was before Jessica Jones. This was before Jessica Jones. This is obviously way before Captain Marvel. I mean, Agent Carter was the first female hero. Was the first female lead hero. She wasn't exactly a superhero. She was a secret agent. But she was the first. She was the first female hero. She's also one of the founding members of S.H.I.E.L.D. She is this incredibly strong character who just is so smart and kicks so much ass. And yet we're sitting here focusing on, who does she end up with? Who does she end up happily ever after with? Who's her boyfriend? You ship them? I think that's a huge problem. Like, I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of Agent Carter, that of all the questions we want answered after the cancellation of Agent Carter, you know, of just what's going to happen, what was supposed to happen next, or what is going to happen next, because apparently it's still possible that Agent Carter could come back. It's been rumored that it's not entirely closed to the possibility of them bringing it back, but there's so many unanswered questions that we would just love to see. And yes, one of them is, who does she end up marrying, because it's something that's brought up in Winter Soldier, but I feel like focusing on that and not much else just kind of defeats the purpose of such a strong female character who does so much more than just be in a relationship with a guy. I really felt like that kind of defeated the purpose of Agent Carter. What did you think of these Daily Marvels, and are there any news stories that I missed that you'd like to talk about? Let me know in the comments and follow me on all the internets. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it around so others can join the conversation. You can check out my written reviews of Marvel TV shows, movies, and video games at TreyGuillotine.blogspot.com and subscribe to my channel to geek out some more. Thanks for watching and have fun.